There's a corridor into Tampa Bay that makes almost no financial sense on paper. Dallas, Texas, one of the largest metros in America, strong job market, no state income tax. Yet Corridor IQ ranks Dallas number 14 of 287 tracked origin markets feeding into Tampa Bay. Here's what makes this corridor different. There's no tax arbitrage. Texas and Florida both have zero state income tax. The move saves nothing there. There's also no purchasing power advantage. Dallas median home value is about $303,000. Tampa median home value is about $372,000. That is a 23% reduction in purchasing power when a buyer arrives in Florida. No tax savings, less purchasing power, a roughly $69,000 price step up. And Dallas is still the 14th largest feeder market into Tampa Bay. When the financial argument is weak and people are still moving at that volume, the motivation goes deeper than a spreadsheet. I'm Michael Barbino. I've worked with this market for more than 20 years. I currently track 287 origin markets feeding into Hillsborough County through Corridor IQ. Dallas is one of the most interesting corridors I follow because of the usual financial explanation. It don't work. Let me show you what does. About 16% of the workforce works fully remote. That's 18% above the national average. Remote work matters because it removes one of the biggest obstacles to a long distance move: job location. A buyer no longer has to wait for a Tampa employer before moving to Tampa. But that doesn't mean it's an easy financial transition. If we look at the Dallas housing market, there's roughly about 6,000 active listings, which is flat. New listings, about 2,500, which is actually down. Home values, they're sitting at about 302,000 with no movement. Sellers are not rushing for the exits, but the ones who decide to leave are making a deliberate decision. When appreciation slows, values flatten, new inventory pulling back, some owners stop waiting for the market to reward them. They move forward. When that seller arrives in Tampa, they're not necessarily distressed. They have a simple gap that they've accepted. They've looked at the higher purchasing price, the mortgage payment, the equity they will need to bring forward. They're moving with their eyes open. But this brings me to what many agents miss when a Dallas buyer enters the market here in Tampa. There's no built-in financial tailwind, no state income tax savings to offset the higher home price, no meaningful price advantage waiting here in Tampa. That means the mortgage strategy has to be precise from the beginning. Bridge financing may need to align with a Dallas sale. Equity may need to be accessed before the buyer reaches Tampa. And the payment structure must be built around the Florida purchase, not around what the buyer previously paid or qualified for in Dallas. This is not a buyer who stumbled into Tampa. This is a buyer who ran the numbers, saw the headwinds, and chose to move anyway. That requires a different conversation than the typical relocation lead. It also requires a mortgage partner who understands the corridor before the financing conversation begins. There are 287 track corridors feeding Tampa Bay. Dallas ranked number 14. Not because the math is easy. As my son says, the math don't math. But decision has already been made. It's not a trend. It's a pipeline. And this is what it looks like before it happens.